Hi, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I am here just cuddled up with a blanket. It has been a really, really long week, and it left me completely and absolutely mind, soul, and body exhausted, which was kind of funny because I was so excited, right? And I decided that I was offered to stay at the conference or stay at home. And I chose to stay at home because I thought, well, first, we're even with budgeting, as much as we can save money through our organization, that's what we want to do. And it's easy. So, and it's funny because it goes along, you'll understand in a minute. Anyway, um, so I decided that I was just going to drive in, which I live quite a ways out, and the conference was in Bellevue. So that's not even really Seattle. It's the outskirts, and it's a very well-to-do area. Hi, Zam. Good. um, so we go out there, and there was like a lot of presenters, and I'm actually going to address a question that was left to me in chat. So the last time you guys saw me do a live, I was at the conference, and I was just kind of, it was the beginning, and I was just kind of showing people around a little bit but that's just like the outside, right? That's just the visual. And oh, hi, sleepster, and I am good. Hi, step by step. So I was just kind of showing people around, but I didn't get to the crux of why we're there. Hi, Matt. Getting into it. Um, and the crux of why we're there, and somebody asked, well, why? Why? What's the point? What are they actually doing about homelessness? And that's an important question. And that's one that we shouldn't shy away from answering. Um, so here's what we do through HCHN, which is Healthcare Network for the Homeless. So there's a lot of different programs, but our particular organization is Seattle King County, and we work with the public health department. And there we have mobile medical teams. We have providers that get funded through us that you do a variety of work out in keeping people healthy. And really, the efforts that we're making are to address healthcare concerns while people are out there, but also make sure that they're getting to what their healthcare needs are, such as housing, right? So we partner with different providers that offer these things. So nationally, we meet once a year, and it's super important to meet nationally because these are clinicians, providers, people with lived experience, people on in governance, people who work with different programs, outreach, and they all come together and they talk about things that they've started in their community, the things that work, the things that don't. So what we packed into this week would have been months and months and months of meetings and processing and classes. So it's a compilation of really a good overview of what is happening nationally as far as programs. Vicky got to present for One Health. That was super exciting. Um, so the first day, of course, for those of you that have not been with me long, I am mentally ill. So I have bipolar, and I'm a survivor of traumatic brain injuries. So that doesn't go away, and it makes me a little quirky, but it also has some issues as well. So I get really ramped up when I'm out and then there's a reason I work from home mainly, and because it's exhausting for me. So if I'm around a lot of people and we're all doing something that I'm passionate about, I get amped. Like, it doesn't matter, how much coffee, I'm just amped. And it's like I take on the passion and excitement of what's happening around me, and I'm just like, ah. So the first day, I'm just soaking it all in. We're doing networking. They had amazing food at this place, just stellar. And so we're doing all these things. We're getting to know one another. We're sitting through, like, there was different presenters. So there was like 6, 7 presenters going at once. So we tried to spread our people out, and then that way we can come back and each person has information to share. So what I did was focused a lot on medical respite care. I was there for Vicky's. There was one for substance abuse treatment. So the first day, I'm just like amped up. Second day, still amped. Now I'm running on empty though, but get there, do all the stuff, get home, don't make it home till late. And then the next day, I was just like that. I couldn't even be there on time. I was so exhausted. So I was late getting there. And oh, thank you. So I was late getting there, and of course, my group is very forgiving. I was there before they even started again, and I was just like, guys, I'm like so exhausted, and everybody kind of was like on point because there's a lot of information to process, a lot. So that night, I actually gave a talk myself at the rally about treatment and providing to people. See, we know that 47 to 53% of people who are experiencing homelessness have also experienced a TBI. And many times it's not even reported. So people get assaulted out there, things happen, they get a brain injury and it's never treated, it's never addressed, and it just goes under the rug. The problem with that being is that TBIs can cause very significant behavioral difficulties and cognitive processing issues. So while somebody like myself can seem able to do a scope of things, which normally I'm able to do when medicated correctly and undergoing the right treatment. If I'm not undergoing the right treatment or medicated appropriately, that ability fails me. So we're seeing a lot of people on the streets that need this. They need people to understand that they may be perfectly intelligent, but because of something that's going on in the brain, they're unable to motivate or unable to figure out what to do. And we know that trauma also causes issues with executive functioning. So I talked little bit about that and what executive functioning is, and how they use it when they get up. And then talked about the impacts of brain injury, because just the night before, I got so amped up that afterwards, when I get really tired and really amped up, I get exhausted. And so my brain gets tired. And when you have brain injuries or things like TBI or mental illness, when you're tired, the regular things you have to stop some of the behavioral effects, such for me, like incessant talking, not being able to remember words. So I apologize. I was like, hey, if any of you spoke to me last night, I was extremely tired. And I had to go up to Christina and say, Christina, I'm tired. I can't quit talking. Luckily, she's another TBI survivor and is amazing in the disability community. And she was like, you need to go home, because it wasn't even a question. I said, I'm having trouble. I can't quit talking. And I'll start talking forcefully, which can seem very aggressive. So I will be like just trying to get the words out. And in my head, I'm like, walk away. Oh my God, why won't you walk away? I can't stop talking because I know I'm doing it. And it's an inability, but it's something in the brain. So I talked a little bit about that. And then I talked a little bit about aphasia. And, many people, and a little bit of, um, yeah, a little bit of issues that, people have with, with neurological or mental illness issues, as far as accessibility, as far as understanding, aphasia, where you forget words, right? So I was having trouble communicating, and if I'm tired, also I will, and you'll get things from the able community like, hey, yeah, I forget things too, and it's like, but does it have a significant negative impact on your life? Because that's what a disability is, right? Is when a certain behavior or a certain issue or certain like that has a significant negative impact on your life. Now, most of us with issues like disabilities, mental illness, can put in instill instill like little safety things, right? To counteract that. Medication being one of them. I am big on I have to take my meds. If I do not take my meds, I am not okay. And that affects my stability and it affects the way I process information around me. And it takes a lot of recovery, other stuff like that. Other things can be removing myself before I'm too tired, recognizing the signs of feeling manic or amped up. Um, but it's a consistent always watching oneself for behaviors and for for behaviors, for emotional stability, for all sorts of things. And I think it's a heightened awareness of how the the issue comes off to those in regular society. And I will talk about I'm going to address mama mode because I see you put a thing in there. You were so right with me too. My brain was just tired. I slept so much and rested even more today. A brain being tired, and especially, I you can have these impacts even without a traumatic brain injury. But I can only speak from my experience having traumatic brain injury versus before the significant ones. When I get tired, my medications don't work as well. So I will get highly emotional. So things that before I could talk about, I'll start to get really choked up and then I'll have passing emotions. So excessive laughter it's called PBA, so pseudobulbar affect. And for me, it was usually laughter. It was not so much the crying. I would have crying spells from time to time, but the ability to control my emotional state is dampened. My communication is dampened. Of course, I have a hard time communicating what I'm trying to say, or I have a hard time communicating the meaning behind the words that are coming out of my mouth. I will frequently get lost in words. I did that during the talk. I actually, thank goodness Shelly was there because she was there. And for some reason, I centered on her because I completely lost track of where I was going. Like the talk ran on and I just yeah, I was like, oh, wow, I'm over here. And I think my point was over here. And so she kind of centered me and I finished and it all went well. But that can also be an impact. My balance also, I have trouble with balance when I'm really tired. So there's fall risks, other things associated with that. Um, but we had an issue. Oh, wait, Matt. English is not my native language, but I easily understand you. Well, thank you. Mattia, hello from Croatia, hello from Seattle. And that took work, right? Like to be able to speak on this level took work. It took me going to speech pathology. It took me working to um to find the words, right? And to help myself through that because many times in my environment, people would just know what I was trying to say. It's like my little grandson, Ollie, right? He has learned that because he has trouble communicating, that he will, and we just give him whatever he wants because it's obvious what his needs are. And so he doesn't have to vocalize them. And so I think that through not letting it get to the point where it took away my voice was huge. A lot of the medications helped. I will be honest, like the medications, once I could stable my mental state from all over the place to basic, I'm usually pretty like I'm an amped up person, but it keeps me down a little bit. Um, and and my depression actually it comes across, there's another word for it, but it comes out as anger and rage. Like I'm a ragey sad person. I don't really I don't cry much. I get ragey. And so I'm always kind of an amp person, but they help keep me stable so that it doesn't get to the point where like I get so amped up that I seize out, has happened. Um so I enlightened some people on that, and that was really great. Really got to Oh, it was so great, the connections. So I've been working on this project. Oh, hi Noodles, that's you too. It just connected that you responded to my mom and hearing you meant that you were live and not that she was watching a rerun. So thank you, by the way. So I've been working on this project about environmental contaminants, right? Because when you live out there, you're living on the ground of the people before you. So that also means in urban areas that you're living on chemicals, yeah, just all sorts of chemicals, heavy metals, contaminants are in the ground. And so it going to a public space every so often, things like that, we try to clean up toxicity. But many times the poor, impoverished, those who are homeless are pushed to areas where there is significant environmental trauma. And so what that means, and how I actually became aware of this, not only being from I'm originally from a Superfund site, where they mined asbestos. So my family was impacted by something in the environment. So I know kind of how that works. Well, when I was out and unhoused myself, I had an issue like with washing my clothes. Like you can't just go like I just wanted clean clothes. So I found a place, we found a camp that had water nearby, but it wasn't water, right? Like it was water, but it was water that was runoff. So when heavy rain would come and get, that's when I would wash clothes, things like that, dry it afterwards, wash my hair. But that's how you get contaminated, living underneath a bridge with tons of traffic, hundreds, hundreds of years of traffic, and or over 100 years of traffic. And so you're subsisting on these things. And so I was able to make a lot of connections so that we can start working on that, right? Figure out how we can test people appropriately, because some of these contaminations in people will actually surface as behavioral or cognitive issues or physical ailments, long lasting, long term disabilities. So we really want to get out there and really know what's out there, what people are living in, and like exactly we know that they're living in all this stuff, but we want to know exactly. Then we want to make sure that we're testing them to see really how what the contaminants are that they're ingesting. Is it through ingestion? Is it through skin contact? Like how is it being breathed in? How is this coming to do this? So it was great conversation. There's a lot of things that are great and I think we should put into action. But before we do any of that, we really have to talk about human rights. And I think that's where, some of the issue is. And I actually had a discussion with my daughter today about the advent of common spaces and, societally and as humans have gone, the advent of common spaces, what's that's turned into, and whether common spaces are adequate when a large population has no housing and has nowhere to be but public spaces. So how do we redefine what common space is, and how do we redefine, you know, our outlook to make sure that people are having their needs met, which will make our environment healthier as well. Um, Let's see, Noodles. Mark Rober did a video with some powder where he made swamp water safe to drink. I think he did runoff water too. Yeah, they do have products, but here's the thing with that though, is that some of the heavy metals aren't filtered out. So it'll take care of bacteria or virus, whatever that spectrum. But a lot of times heavy metals are not contained by that. And we want to make sure that that is there. And so, um, what really kicked off, and also now we're really focusing on water as well, because like we have people drinking out of mud puddles. We have no regular access to water for people. We rely on our libraries, our businesses, our parks and rec restrooms, which are being closed down. So it's a situation, but we are all working on it, and there's tons and tons of people working on it. But change, unfortunately, is slow. And for many, it doesn't come in time. And so I think that was a conversation that I really valued at the conference with one of my colleagues, was that, you know, knowing that you're not going to fix it tomorrow and save everyone. And then tempering that with still having the hope and vision to instill measures to make sure that it doesn't continue to happen and that it becomes solved. And that's a hard line, because it's very difficult to still keep your mind on the long term when you know that everything spent is also costing lives. And so that's very frustrating. So it, like I said, tons to process. Um, Water is life. Like I used to have a hat. They actually, Hanes, and if you guys ever see, like, I think they made me take it off, but there was one they did, but I always wore this black hat with like this little symbol on it. And that meant water is life. I've been to several protests. Yes, water is life. Absolutely. And it is ridiculous at this day and age that like, right now we have whole states in drought. Like, we have put, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing. Like, it's outrageous to me that it's coming down to where people are going to have to pick between fresh water or electricity. There's this lack of, we, as at least in this country, have denied for so long and so hard that there was even problems, because that would mean that we would have to fix it, right? If we admit that there's something wrong, then people want you to fix it. That it has become so massive of an issue and so interconnected with everything else that it's going to take a lot of work to just lessen the impact. The impact is still going to be there, but just to lessen it. Fire season is already kicking off to a fiery start. I smile and laugh, but it's not funny. It's all I can say is that there are many people that are trying to do the best that they can, not only for themselves, but for others around them. And that's where we've got to be. Just reach out to those that we can touch and save, and do that. Now back to, because I just went on a whole nother tangent on this side. And what I was going to talk about was accessibility. Matt, my father was a plumber, so we would talk about water sometimes. Access to water is important, and we know this because, like, waterborne illness, that is, just the advent of why people drink beer is because clean water was hard to find. It would kill you. And so we understand the importance of hydration. And it's just not, we know how to get clean water without having to make it alcoholic. So I mean, there's that. But I think that, if we just would sit and think for just a minute, like, a lot of these issues and a lot of our stereotypes and stigma against things would be solved. Hi, Dee. So I wanted to go back and talk to accessibility. So my friend, Christina, she's a powerhouse. I mean, she just does so much good work, and she happens to have to use a motorized wheelchair, and she has some difficult, and I'm sure she doesn't care that I share. She's on the disability commission. So, but she has some difficulties with, sight, vision, whatever, doesn't matter. But they did not have captioning. They did not have, and I have issues with hearing a little bit too. So I usually, I make use of the captioning when it's available. So I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I asked and asked, and they made me feel like it was just, it's such a big deal. And I was like, oh no, we're not. No, it is not that big of a deal. You matter. You are valued. You are worthy. And absolutely not. We are not doing this. So I went and found the president of National Healthcare Network for the Homeless and told him, hey, there needs to be accessibility options, and it could be very inexpensive, but the thought is thought that counts, right? Like, at least have, like, throw a sheet up there. I don't care. Just get some words on there so that people are understanding what's going on. And he goes, well, we reached out to regions to see if they had anybody who needed hearing or visual aids. And I was like, sir, sir, I see how you thought that would be appropriate. That sounds good. However, many people don't self-identify as having these issues. So you can just plan on there being people that will need these aids. Like, just plan on it. Plan on the fact that you're going to have people with visual or hearing issues. And many times they're not going to come and tell you, and their coworkers may not even know, or their colleagues, just because they don't come out and self-identify that way. So please, never next time, just assume that there will be. And that way you don't even have to worry about it. And so he to his credit, he gave it some real thought. And I did talk to another organizational person about further on, because we have to change this stuff, right? Like, we have to say something, because it's not just visual disabilities. There's all sorts. There's this, and I'm actually, after this, me and Christina decided that we're putting together a toolkit that kind of explains what's the ADA, why it exists, what are some ableist things that we run into all the time, and most of the time, by the way, I just want to say this, since I'm using the word ableist, I am not talking about, in this situation, any kind of conscious decision to discriminate at any time. So the things that we're going to be talking about, like in the toolkit things, is the biases that exist that we do without thinking about them. The stuff that's just ingrained into our society and that people do. And that way, because like I said, he took it really well, was, very graceful or gracious, and was like, okay, I get what you're saying, and thank you for letting me know. We'll have to have discussions about this. So now I have decided, because I had to sign up for another conference too. They actually asked, do you need a visual assistance or captioning? And I was like, captioning. And I said, however, I should not have to self-identify as needing these aids. They should just be there. We should just assume that there are people who, in the name of equity. Otherwise, we're not actually talking equity. Like, I don't want to use these words as, like, hot button words for the time, like fad words. These things have meaning and they affect people's lives. And so the best thing we can do is, like, educate, especially if you can't educate anybody else, educate the people you work with about it. Because at least, like, in my sphere, they're so, like we're just real heavy thinkers, I think. And so we're always processing how we can do better, what better looks like. Yeah. So it's a great sphere. I love it. I agree with you. So it was a really great time. And then Friday, I could not make myself go. The last day of the conference, I was done. I, like, went to bed and smashed my toe, took half my toenail off, fell into bed exhausted, woke up to my alarm and was like, I can't do this. And I realized that, because Thursday I'm bumping around like, hey, I'm going to do all this studying this weekend. I will get you guys emails on, the current stuff I'm looking at, and, all those others. I'm like, yeah. Friday rolls around and I am done. I am done with people. I am done with sound. I'm done with life. I turned on the TV and I just blanked out. Blanket, pillow, couch, done. I couldn't think. I was like, I told everyone, I was like, I'm so sorry. They're like, nope, it is fine. And I just realized, like the next ones, I'm going to have to stay there because I'm going to need consistent rest. Because as much as I love the fact that people consistently are like, oh, it doesn't look like, you do just fine. You sound just fine. Everything else, it's not fine when I get that tired. It really has an impact on my health. Let's see. Mom mode. Self-identifying, requiring attendees self-identify as forced disclosure of HIPAA-covered items. Yes. That's how I feel too. Because here's the thing. Now, for me, I do it because I feel like if you can fight a battle like that, you should. But I also realize that, like, there are people who are really tired of fighting that battle, right? Like, my friend's exhausted. She is tired of having to consistently ask for accommodation. She is tired of having to consistently hear, oh, when she asks. Like, she's a burden. Like, somehow it's too much for her to be in these spaces. And I tend to not have that issue as much. So I can be a little more forceful and a little more outright. And so I do that. Um, but I really feel like, there are very real stigmas associated with some disabilities, psychiatric disabilities, for one thing. Having to consistently schedule things for when you're manic to a point or not depressed is exhausting. These disabilities affect people and they affect the way they live their lives. And so, but I don't think that anybody should have to be like, hey, so yeah. And that's what I had to do with, like, the Human Rights Commission, right? I was having issues with having to say, listen, you are never going to get a book email out of me. I don't do that. I have issues due to TBI. If I interrupt, it's because I have poor impulse control. Like, it's not a secret. I know why I have these issues. I know what causes them and what it is. But there was a consistent stigma, and I wasn't ready to fight that battle. I would much rather fight battles on behalf of other people. When I have to fight battles on behalf of myself, it is really exhausting. So that's that's where that's at. But I believe that, we as a society are we're very focused on including those that we deem to be worthy. So a lot of places will use words like inclusion and equity, but it's after they already make sure that, they're the people they want in there. So yeah, we're dealing with a lot. Let's see. And isn't that part of ADA too? It is. And in case, like, for those, because I know there's people who are not from the United States, a lot of people, and I appreciate you. Let me explain what the ADA is. So the ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that was put into law by the Clinton administration, or no, not, I'm sorry. Was it the Clinton administration? I'm not sure. But it was put into effect in 1990. And it was protection for those people who have a disability. And in that original ADA, that original act, it gave 3 classes of disability. It was very broad. It didn't include a whole lot, and it wasn't very instructive, right? So it didn't give a whole lot of recourse. So then again, they revised it in 2008. And I think it was instated. It became law in 2008, and then in 2009 took effect. And that's the Americans with Disabilities Act Amendments Act. So it's ADAAA. Okay, I found that probably funnier than it should be. But anyway, and that just kind of, that opens the door, gives a lot more explanation, does a lot more definition on the protected class and the recourses for such. So let's see. Mom's saying no, but it was before Clyde. Yeah, I think I was doing something and I read about the ADA in that administration, and that's why I was like, no, okay, that was wrong. She can't get it to before Clinton after Reagan. I think there was Bush in there, right? I think there was Bush in there. Not sure. Anyway, that's not my focus. Like, yeah. So it was really exciting. So then Friday has passed and I've gotten catched up on my sleep, lay in bed, I'm sleeping. 8 o'clock in the morning rolls around and my son wakes me up asking me to find my Narcan. And I carry Narcan, or well, it's naloxone. So I carry the generic version, which is like a intravenous or not intermuscular. Thank you, intermuscular. Um, because he had relapsed and had taken something, and his heart was. It wasn't the symptoms of an opioid overdose, but he was asking for Narcan. So I wake up 8:30 in the morning, tossing the house apart, like throwing things. Like I can't find. Like I'm just like when you think somebody is dying, and yeah, it was. So I couldn't find it. So I called 911. Um, it turns out, he ended up going to the hospital. They were able to get his heart rate down. Um, and so I had to. It was due to a meth use. So he had injected methamphetamine. So unfortunately, I had to give him a tent and a sleeping bag and tell him that it was just not like he knows he can only be here when he's in recovery and not actively using. And so if he's going to be actively using, he cannot be here. And so that was a really hard moment. That was difficult. That was very difficult. So yeah, that was my Saturday. So I really felt like there was just no time to like come down from everything. It's been a lot. And so then I just picked right up into the week, meetings and trying to come down. I really haven't even gone over like my notes and the transcripts of what I learned to be able to process it. I did want to say thank you too, though. Let's see. This is so somebody, and it did not come with a name. So I just wanted to say thank you. That is like the dream car scene. Like it was on my list, and I want to thank you. Um, Now that the other grandparents have the kids the majority of time because we switched for 2 years, I had them the majority of the time, and now the other. It's a good thing, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing we switched. Um, but yeah, Amelia's kind of having a hard time with it. I'm having a little bit of a, even though I know it's needed, it's like, so yeah, so thank you so very much. And that would have totally been a dream for like when I had my girl. So, and Amelia saw it and she immediately sat in it and she's like, I love it. I love the colors. It's perfect. Thank you. I also wanted to thank Bill. That came with a name for some airtight storage containers. Super appreciative. To the person who sent the yeast and the flour. I goes without saying, thank you. Prices on food right now are just astronomical. So like that helps so very much. I'm gonna address some comments. If it's refuge, I know. He does know that I did the right thing, and he didn't hassle me. He didn't. There was no, both of us were just sad. This is just a sad situation, and he's sick, and he doesn't want to be this way. He doesn't want to have everything in him seek out this, and it's just a really hard situation, and my heart goes out to. I know that I am not the only one. When I talk about my situations, the reason I talk about mine is because if I have this situation, guaranteed there are thousands of people that are having it. So we are not alone in this world, nor our experiences can be similar. Um, So yeah, it's sad. It's sad, right? Like, what do you do? But he has been coming over for coffee and chilling for a bit and taking Rowan down for me. So that has given me some rest. Um, YouTube just recommended this so randomly, and it's 4:44 a.m. What's going on? I don't know. I have no idea. But hi. And that's great. 4 is my favorite number. And I turn 44 this year. So I'm definitely like super excited and want to do like a little photo shoot or something. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Matt, I keep rooting for your son. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you all for all the love and support you guys send our way. Like, it means a lot and it is so appreciated. But it was a rough week, and I will be honest, like I had the kids like last night into today, and I am flat out just I'm exhausted. I am so tired. But I wanted to come and say hi and say thank you to people and just let you all know, kind of touch base, let you know what happened at the conference. And also to just like kind of like it really, that question that was asked after I like showed the conference, that really like sat on my soul because I used to ask those same questions like, what are the yeah, who cares about this organization, what are they doing? And a lot of times, because I didn't have time, I was trying to survive to look at all the different avenues. So I think that that is a really valid question, a question we definitely should ask, and a question that those of us that are providers, those of us that are organization, those of us, we should definitely answer that question is, what are you doing you know with unending meetings? What are you doing in the planning? What actions are being taken? And if it's not working, what other actions are being taken? So ask the important questions. Um, has anyone told you you're beautiful today? Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Matt. Um, Jess, best wishes from Hamburg. Keep your meaningful work up. Thank you. I love what I do. I it's hard because like humanitarian work pays about nil, but I do, it's like a trade-off, I guess, because like I finally though am getting to the point where I do value my time more. So I am doing a little better, but I think that there's something about the work that it doesn't matter, it's meaningful. I To me, like, it I love what I do. I mean, I love what I do. I wrap it in my life. What I do has become my entire, like, everything about who I am, and while that freaks some people out, I find it very comforting because I surround myself with the information. I soak in it. I apply it to experiences that I've had. It's this it's my life's work. And I'm hoping that someday, um, people will be afforded their human rights and I can just like paint full time, right? Or like do photography, but just do stuff like that. But you also know by then I'll probably have another cause. So TJ will find his path. You are doing great. He knows you love him. I know he does. It is a rotten hard battle. It just is so hard to have boundaries in that situation, right? It's easy to say, you know, that if you do this, if you engage in this behavior, you can't be here. But when it comes down to it and you're getting notifications on your phone about, a shooting that's happening, a mile away, it hits different. It hits different. I'm gonna tell you, it hits different. And it's being able to also be compassionate with that boundary and not eh, well, depending on the level of toxicity, this is not okay for everybody, but for me, being able to have compassionate boundaries. In other words, yes, you can't stay here. You have to have a tent somewhere else. You are not allowed to reside here because I can't deal with those behaviors. But when you are not using, you are more than welcome to come and spend time, have some coffee. Let's talk about your day. Let's talk about, what's going on. So I think that's super important. Um, Thank you so much, Mama Mode. Let's see, Karen, doing good, doing good. Getting tired because it is like almost 1 o'clock in the morning here, but I kind of got a little anxiety about coming online, and then it just like turned into procrastination. But I really wanted to because if it gets too far out, right? Like if it's like 2 weeks, months, something like that, I think I'll forget to talk about it, or yeah, you got distracted again, right? Yes, that's such a thing. So anyway, on let's see. Yeah, not sure where I was gonna go with that one, but anyway, I appreciate you guys all so very, very much. Thank you for taking the time to sit with me and catch up. And oh, hi, Sunshine Girl. I am gonna get to bed and cuddle up with my animals and get some good night's sleep because I have to be up early for a training tomorrow. Yay! All right, guys. Bye.